And we begin with a little bit of technical glitch. Or did I just forget to add myself to the show? So, late last year, I said, I think around in November 2023, that my new year has already begun because I kind of do not believe in following the standards, confirming, whatever the reason may be, but that's who I am. I knew that I needed to do things differently. I knew that I needed to still get my voice out there, but I also knew I needed to change things. You see, I have been in a perpetual continuum of things that sometimes get exhausting, so exhausting that it causes an emotional burnout that I can no more handle. So let's talk about what those are. Today, I'm talking about defying some of my perpetual continuum toxic negative traits. But more importantly, am I doing this for the first time? Have I been doing this? How do I handle this? And so much more. And for a second, you might have an echo because I just opened another tab, and that might uh, play my show back because I just want to see something on the screen as we talk. This is very casual, so bear with me as my 1,000 years to open a simple link. Start the conversation. If it has, there we go. So the double voice starts, waiting for it to be able to go. All right. So really, the negative traits or challenges that I deal with. You'll see on the screen things that I'm going to talk about today. And I'm hoping they will play. There we go. Okay. So I don't even remember. I think I was probably 6, 7, maybe 8 since some of these things started showing in my life. Self doubt, criticizing myself, being anxious, wanting things done a certain way. And if they're not done that way, not being very happy about it and struggling with it. So let's talk about, first of all, self doubt. I have been fighting self doubt, I think, since the age of 7, if I'm not wrong. That's when certain things happen in my life where I was told again and again and again to my face that I'm not good enough, that I was only born to serve certain really sick people, and my life has no other purpose. No, that were not people of my family or my friends, but people that my family trusted and did not know had been causing me harm. So yes, my point is, since the age of 7, I have been dealing with self-doubt. Even when I have been one of the first to achieve things in my school, in my college, in my university, at work, in my jobs, in business, self-doubt never left me. And because of that, the inner critic always got to have a party. The inner critic always was ready to tell me, you're doing this wrong. This isn't good enough. This is not how you do it. You're going to make a fool of yourself. Oh, you're stupid. People are going to laugh at you. And of course, I believed it for a very long time. And I constantly criticized myself. I constantly put myself down before anybody else could. Before anybody could say that you're not good enough, I told myself several times a day that I'm not good enough. I told myself that everything that I was doing isn't good enough, is poor quality, isn't something anybody else wants to watch or see or be part of. I told myself constantly that nobody is there to celebrate me. There is no reason for anyone to celebrate me. So the inner critic constantly kept telling me, I am not good enough. I'm not worth it. So when inner critic and self-doubt started having a party, when they started celebrating what they did to me, how I felt about myself, they started creating a third friend, perfectionism. Now, because I always doubted myself, because my inner critic was always so strong and powerful and successful in defeating everything I wanted to do, I became a perfectionist. I do not think I was a perfectionist, but I became one because now my self doubt and inner critic constantly told me I need to do better. I need to change things last minute. I need to add something more. I need to add more value because what I'm doing is not good enough. So that good enough became the voice that controlled my actions, my choices, and my confidence. So perfectionism wasn't about the more I could offer or making things look or feel good. It was all about me constantly telling myself there is something important still missing in every effort I make, that my effort is not perfect enough to be accepted, that my hard work is not perfect enough to be celebrated, that my voice wasn't perfect enough to be heard, that my face wasn't perfect enough to be seen. So the cycle of self doubt, inner critic, And perfectionism forced me to do a lot more than I needed to do. And I kept doing it because now it was all about people pleasing. It was all about trying to be that version which people will accept, which people will at least not reject, which people will at least not tear down. So I constantly worked hard more than I needed to, even when everything was completely done, even when everything was actually really good. I look back at things and I just go, wow, I did do well. I did better than everybody else. There was a reason I was the first to achieve certain things amongst my peers. There was a reason I was amongst first 5,000 people in the world to be Microsoft Charter member in my teenage. There was a reason that before I could even finish my qualification, I was teaching it to more than 900 people. But my self doubt, my inner critic, and my perfectionism kept telling me I need to do more. I need to do better. I need to, whatever I'm doing is just not enough. So that means I need to stay up even if everything is done. And I need to keep finding reasons to adding more value, to finding more information, to doing more research, to practicing my speech more. And if that wasn't enough, it so happens, people have a dream of moving to another country. I had those dreams, but how I moved to Australia wasn't because of a dream. It was because of a safety thing. It was because I needed to stay alive and I needed to be away from where I was born. So I had to move. I didn't get to choose where I move. I didn't get to choose how I move. I didn't get to choose why I move. I just had to move. That was my only choice. Either this or have my life at risk and that of my loved ones. So, what I'm getting at is I had to move. And the result of moving was now I was in a totally different culture. Yes, somehow I have somewhat neutral accent. Yes, I'm really good with people. I get along with people. I'm friendly. Despite being an introvert, I have this strange capability of being able to talk as long as I'm in the right company, as long as I have the energy, as long as I have the emotional strength to do so. So I could gel in really quick. I could fit in, and I could fit in the culture really quick. But in order to be good enough, my inner critic constantly told me things that were not good enough as an immigrant. Some of those things, yes, people instigated their reactions, their comments, but they only had to do 2%. 98% was my own brain telling me not good enough. Nobody wants you. You don't deserve to be here. So on and so forth. So, what do I do? To avoid being judged for my origin, for my accent, for what I look like, I started making fun of my origin. I started rejecting the traditions that I valued and mocking them. I practiced more and more and more to not sound like my origin, to not look like my origin, to not feel like my origin, to not be anything like my origin. And what's the result? For a very long time, I was very lonely. I was constantly living a life that wasn't me. I was doing what others wanted me to. I, I was doing what was expected of me. I wasn't doing who I was. I wasn't doing who I needed to be. And I wasn't doing what I needed in my life. I was just not only trying to fit in, but fit in so well that reject anything to do with my origin, my identity, so that people can think of me as if I am just like them. The thing is, I'm not like them. I'm not like anybody. Nobody is like anybody. Everybody is their own unique person. And I lost that for a long time. I lost my voice. I lost my identity. I became someone else. There's multiple layers to it. I'm not going to go into that right now. But the point is this perpetual cycle of constantly trying to be perfect enough for a certain box to fit in. My inner critic, my self doubt constantly drove me towards a perfectionism that can never be achieved. And that's not worth achieving, I tell you now. It's not worth achieving. There is nothing called perfect. Now, I constantly say there is nothing called perfect. And anybody who thinks they're perfect have stopped being good enough because they have stopped trying to be a better person, a better version of themselves. And all this entire cycle created anxiety. I already knew that I suffer with clinical depression, which I knew at a very early age. But around 24, 25, I also was diagnosed with anxiety disorder. After a few anxiety attacks, I ultimately found out what's wrong with me and that, I am not dying. It's just an anxiety attack. I say today just an anxiety attack because at that time it looked like end of life. Today I know I can manage it. And I have been managing my clinical depression, my PTSD, my OCD, and my anxiety, among other things. As I call it, I have a cocktail of mental wellness challenges that I drink every day and still show up smiling and laughing and winning and conquering on my terms. So I've lived with that anxiety. I've lived with this perfectionism and inner critic and everything else that you see on screen for almost all my life. The question is this new? No, none of it is new. It's been there in some shape and form or other for decades. Will it happen again? Well, let me tell you what. It never stopped happening. It never ever stopped happening. It kept happening every single day in my life. I do not know a day when I have not self doubted, when I have not had anxiety, when I have not criticized myself, when I have not overdone and felt exhausted and burnt out. The question is, how do I cope? For everyone, it's different. For every single person, the coping techniques, the mechanism, the support system is very different. For me, structure is my backbone. Structure is the spine I stand on. I need structure. I cannot survive without structure. My coping mechanism involves a lot of things, but three things that really, really have worked for me is number one, of course, having structure. Number two, trying to proactively recognize when depression is setting on, when anxiety is coming in, when my OCD or PTSD are taking center stage in my life. recognizing these patterns, recognizing these things, and taking proactive actions. The third thing is taking proactive actions has helped me for more than 2 decades now, to be specific, 23 plus years. First thing that I'll say to everyone, especially men out there or non binary or anybody else, but I will still say, especially men, please don't shy away from seeking help. Please don't shy away from seeing a therapist. No, you do not become less manly by seeing a therapist or a counselor or a psychologist. You are being man enough by actually taking care of your mental health. You're being man enough by actually being vulnerable. You're being man enough by actually not trying to hide what you're going through. So that's what I did. I used my structure to keep myself calm and focused and strong. I identified patterns that helped me recognize when any of these challenges set on and they start coming in. And I created a little system to proactively take care of these things by having 4 people in my contact who I can message and say, hey, I think depression is coming in. You might want to check on me for next 2, 3 days. Hey, I think PTSD is going to kick in. Do you mind staying with me for a night? Hey, I think my anxiety is driving me crazy. Can we please go somewhere and do something else? Can you push me to literally asking people, can you push me to drop work, to drop this, to drop anything that's making me anxious and just do something so different that I can forget the responsibilities, everything else that is in my life. So that's how I cope. Now, why am I telling this to everyone? Well, I'm telling this to very specific people. I'm telling this to people who feel like me, who question themselves like me, who struggle like me, whether you're a man, woman, non binary, anything, anyone, any human who is feeling like what I have felt for last several decades. I'm only 21 though, I'm kidding. This is for you. I want you to know that my strategy, my ways might not be the right answer for you, but there is always a way out there using which you can take care of yourself. You can fight anxiety. You can fight perfectionism. You can fight the inner critic, and you can defy self doubt. More importantly, you can learn to accept that you have these challenges. And rather than saying that there is something wrong with you tell yourself, oh, yeah, you know, I have this condition, I have this challenge, but here's my strategy how I'm going to deal with them. I'm telling you all of this because there are people who have lost their life, who have taken their own life because they can't deal with it anymore. And I don't want that to be the case for anybody who's listening this, because there are so many times in my life when I wanted to end it all, when I attempted to end it all. But having the right people on your side, using the techniques that work for you, seeking professional help, and giving yourself a little grace, allowing yourself to just be a little kinder to yourself, to treat yourself the way you want to treat others, to please yourself the way you want to please others, to take care of yourself the way you want to take care of others who matter to you is the best thing you can do yourself for yourself. I'm telling this to you because I know how lonely it can feel, because I know how, despite all of this, showing up can get exhausting, because I know it feels like you're in a cycle that's never going to end. But guess what? it does get better. It totally does get better because I will not say that your challenges go away. I will not say that your mental health gets all right. But what I'll say is you can learn the tools and techniques and create resource kit for yourself that will help you defy all these challenges day after day. And the most important thing you can do for yourself is be a little kinder to yourself. I overthink so much. Even when people are not judging me, I am constantly judging. And on their behalf, I'm deciding that they are judging me. I do that every single day. I do that every single night. I did that today. When people message me to say, "How are you?" my brain says, "Oh, they're saying, oh, you haven't done this for me. You didn't show up for me. You were not good enough. You're not a good friend. You're not a good service provider. You're not a good team leader. You're not a good son. You're not a good neighbor." All that goes through my mind within a fraction of a second. And then I bring myself back to reality that I am the only one who's going to give myself grace and remind myself, no, let them finish what they're saying. No, think that they really care about you. No, think that they do miss you. They do want to check in on you just because you are a nice person in their life. And that's how it gets better. One step at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time, it does get better. I don't have all the answers, but I am starting this voice only Sebastian Bites to have these kind of conversations several times in a week as I reclaim this year my life, my identity, my happiness, my joy, my success, my dreams, my ambitions, and build a very hyper intentional life with people I really want to be with people who really want to be with me. I do not anymore want to be with people who do not value me with my imperfections, who cannot see what I'm worth unless they're getting something from me. We'll continue this conversation. For now, I'm just going to quickly put up some comments and then I'll wrap up. Hey, sister. Alicia says it's exhausting and anxiety provoking at the same time. It absolutely is. It is so exhausting. Sometimes I feel like, will there ever be an end to it? But there is a solution, there is a way to tackle this. Joanna says, as a recovering perfectionist, I so get this. Thank you. And I think that's one of the things that we can do for each other, all of us, that we just remind each other that I get it. I understand it. Don't give advice, don't give suggestions, don't preach. Just let the person know I get it. And that makes them feel a lot less lonelier than they feel every day. Helen says, recovering perfectionist here too. Me too. It's an ongoing process, a lifetime process, Helen. And she says different reasons, but so relate to so much of what you say. Thank you. I'm glad that you relate to it. I hope it helps you. I hope it helps everybody else who's listening. And yep, we're all 21 plus. In my world, everyone is 21 plus. That's it. We're not having any other way. And Alicia says the inner critic is brutal. Oh, I know that. Brutal beyond words. It's the biggest enemy that we live with, but it's an enemy that's in your head. So there is no way you can kick it out, but you can learn to defeat it, defy it every single day. And Helen says, amen to that. I am assuming when I said, there's ways that things do get better. So thank you so much for everyone who's been here with me, who has had the patience to listen. Look, my self doubt is saying nobody wants to listen, and so many other things are going on. But defying this means to actually allowing myself to believe that people want to listen, people do care, and people do benefit from what I have to say. For that reason, I'm going to keep sharing my voice, sharing my thoughts in hope that anyone who feels lonely, anyone who feels like I do, knows that they're not alone. And with that, as I always say, I'm Sebastian Ane. I'm here because I care and because I give a damn. I will see you next time. Thank you so much for listening.